Before starting this review, it's worth noting that I'm very fond of movies from and set in the 1980s. Growing up watching 80s movies on TV means I'm the prime audience for the current wave of throwbacks, and despite having a few notable entries in recent years, you really don't have to twist my arm to try one more. Summer of '84 comes from the directing team of Simard, Anouk Whissell, and Yoann-Karl Whissell, the same team behind 2015's equally nostalgic Turbo Kid. It's worth noting that while the team also wrote Turbo Kid, Summer of '84 is written by Matt Leslie and Stephen J. Smith. A 15-year-old kid named Davy hears on the news that a serial killer of boys his age is active in the area, and dubbed the Cape May Slayer. Into every generation, there is a chosen one. Davy then sees a teenage boy with his neighbour Mr. Mackey, played by Rich Sommer, who you may recognise as Debbie's husband from the also 80s set Netflix original series Glow. Soon after, Davy's shocked to discover the face of said boy on his milk carton. He quickly sets out to recruit his 3 friends to investigate his possible serial killer neighbour. But his buds have a hard time swallowing the story because Davy is known for having an active imagination. Not to mention one teensy-weensy little detail: Mr. Mackey is a police officer. Reluctantly, Davy's friends agree, and what follows is a series of amateur detective work, but with a healthy dose of childhood adventure. Perhaps the biggest hurdle for Summer of '84 is that it's impossible not to compare it to Stranger Things or Stephen King's It. The story revolves around a group of young boys in the suburban setting of the 1980s teaming up to investigate a grave threat. There's much to separate them. Summer of '84 doesn't even hint at the supernatural, but when it comes to the characters and setting, the comparison is inevitable. Does it have Dustin and Steve discussing hair products? No? Well, points removed. Summer of '84 does fall short in this area. Davy's friends aren't fleshed out or unique. They are entirely functional, and there are hints of a touching friendship with Woody, who does get a bit more time on his own, but they never quite reach any kind of memorable status. Like Stephen King's It, there's an attempt to have the teens sound natural with a dash of vulgarity spread throughout, which does feel a little jarring early on whilst the boys are gawking at a porn magazine, though it does smooth out over time. Slightly older love interest Nikki lives across the street, and used to babysit Davy. We hear the boys describe her as the dream woman before finally meeting her as she strikes up a meeting and far-fetched romance with Davy. While she's never really afforded much plot outside a line or two of dialogue, her romance with Davy is surprisingly sweet. Awkward moments and almost kisses are often accompanied with a soft synth cue, and while we don't get much of a reason to buy her attraction to Davy, it intentionally captures the spirit of such romance subplots in films of the era. Speaking of the era, references are actually quite restrained, with most coming in the form of set dressing and aesthetic. Not to say that it's devoid of any verbal nostalgia, a character does point out that he hasn't seen Gremlins yet, but such an example works on a meta level where he's shutting down the conversation to refocus the film on the plot at hand. Much of the film is the boys' detective work, spying on Mr. Mackey, looking for evidence, and so on. There's a nice balance in these scenes, so that even when it feels they're barking up the wrong tree, the childhood adventure and imagination allows the suspense to work regardless. Now you're probably thinking that sounds more suitable for a younger group of characters. That's not unreasonable, but the film is something of a coming-of-age tale, and there's a constant clash between the characters' mature and immature tendencies. For example, the boys have a strong interest in the opposite sex, but much of the dialogue is vulgar and boastful. Except for Davy, of course, because he's our hero. Duh. What little we do get of Davy's friends suggests that they're all on the cusp of maturing out of necessity. Woody's mother works too hard and has a drinking problem. Eat's parents are always fighting, and Curtis, well, he cares about studying, so he works too hard. I guess. You could buy that the group agreeing to Davy's plan is a way for them to hold on to whatever childhood adventure they have left. The irony, of course, is that if Davy's right, they're offering themselves on a platter to Buffalo Bill. While it's true the characters are nowhere near as captivating or as likeable as those in Stranger Things, there is just enough there to enjoy the ride. The teenage sleuthing becomes more engaging the further it goes, and where the film notably excels past its competition, especially It in this regard, is the suspense. The back half of the film is stronger than the first, and impressively escalates the tension, culminating in a final 15 minutes that went much further than I would ever have predicted. One moment in the film's climax had my jaw on the floor. I truly never expected it to go quite there. Where the film decides to close will genuinely surprise viewers and make them reconsider what the message and themes of the movie were. What initially feels like a safe, nostalgic throwback to the Goonies and Stand By Me era of filmmaking suddenly has a bit more bite. Like vampires. Like the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, 2 references in one video, I will never be stopped. As a follow-up to Turbo Kid, Summer of '84 is arguably more impressive in its direction for its deft handling of its horror elements. But it doesn't have the stronger characters and the heart of its BMX riding post-apocalyptic brethren. Recommending Summer of '84 will come with a qualifier. Does another film about a group of adolescent boys investigating a mysterious threat sound appealing? If not, then it's a tough, although not impossible sell. But if you do enjoy stories of this ilk or 80s throwbacks, you're in fairly good hands. The conclusion might prove divisive, but for me, it escalated the film to a new height. Thanks for checking out the review, guys. If you'd like to show your support, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv.